Hello, and welcome to the first episode of our podcast, We the People. This is your host, Cassandra, and today we'll be talking about a controversial topic, free speech, or lack thereof, on college campuses. Are we being protected or censored? Many on both sides of the political spectrum have voiced their opinions on this topic, but today we will be doing a little discussion with an actual college student and her take on this phenomenon. So joining us today will be Brianna Bracey, a freshman college student from Stockton University. To start off, tell us a little something about yourself.
I'm just a freshman at Stockton University. I major in criminal justice, and I'm trying to minor in victimology and work on substance abuse once I graduate.
That's really cool. So, to start off, this issue needs to start somewhere. And the authors of Coddling of the American Mind believe that it begins with the way parents raise their kids. Many iGen kids have grown up with protective parents, whether it be for physical or mental safety. The creation of the iPhone has led to an exponential increase in our ability to look things up. Children can now look anything up with the tap of a button. So do you believe that the sort of safety net that the authors of Coddling of the American Mind say is important to the development of children, or is it detrimental to their development?
I believe that it's a little bit of both, only because on the detrimental side of the development, children need to learn based off experience, in my opinion. So this safety net that parents seem to make for their children almost censors them from the harsh realities of the world. So, for example, if a parent refuses to let a child cry after they fall, they automatically pick them up, brush them off, and put like a Band-Aid and everything on them. It kind of doesn't give them that experience that when you're hurt, this is what happens. So in the future, they're kind of going to feel uncomfortable with the idea that they don't know what they're feeling in that moment. But then on the other hand, the safety net is developing because it doesn't make the child fearful of the entire situation, because they know that they have someone there for them.
So do you think this is a direct correlation to higher rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide, or?
Definitely, it does have to do with the higher rates of depression and anxiety, which leads to possible unfortunate chances of suicide, because when people are uncomfortable with the idea of feeling hurt or seeing violence or experiencing forms of violence, when they don't know what to do, they feel very isolated, as if they don't know who to talk to because they don't have that experience of talking to somebody before. So in college, if you witness something or if you experience something and you don't know what to do in that scenario, you're going to automatically feel a sense of like this unknowingness, this feeling of you don't know anything compared to your peers. You're feeling dumb, less of yourself. So you're going to get into this really anxious state, very depressed state. And then, unfortunately, some students that experience these mental illnesses turn to suicide rather than further help.
So fast forward, as these kids start to move on to college, it's hard for them to transition because of the safety net. So you agree with that. They go from a safe, unchallenged area to a sudden shift in which they are now exposed to differing viewpoints and they can't handle the change. Students now need safe spaces more than ever. And do you believe that these safe spaces are important?
With parenting constantly sheltering their kids and almost helicopter parents becoming more and more, these safe spaces are important, but I feel that we can focus on these problems early on, so that way we don't need these safe spaces for the future. So if parents are able to, quote unquote, there's no right way to parent a child. You can't just make a book on how to parent someone, but there are general guidelines, in my opinion, where you shouldn't be constantly overbearing on your child, and you shouldn't be constantly sheltering them and censoring them. And then when they shift into this different viewpoints and they can't handle the change, just like you said, it almost like the college has to provide the safe space that parents weren't able to provide for them as children. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So, now we're going to move on to the whole free speech topic. There's been a pattern that during the recent years that if someone says something that directly challenges a student's beliefs, they can be reprimanded. Thus perpetuating the cycle of being afraid to speak about differing values and views. So, knowing that our school is a fairly bipartisan university, do you feel as though this is important in regards to the way students and faculty are able to speak freely?
I feel that just like how in the book, you remember the whole reference that they made to Evergreen, how they were able to make these petitions to have staff and faculty fired just for saying differing beliefs.
Yeah.
I do not agree with that at all. I feel that it is very important for students and faculty to be able to speak freely, not in a hateful way, and anything that represents racism, sexism, homophobia, anything that's very hateful to me should not be free speech, because in my opinion that's hate speech. But also, what is your definition on hate speech? It's a really gray area in my opinion. But it is really important, because if you're going to constantly just throw out people that are part of the minority of the opinions, because in this school we are a very open and seemingly accepting school, but the minute you see someone, for example, wearing a Make America Great Again hat, we automatically assume these stigmas about them, like they could possibly be racist or like certain things about them, so we automatically judge them and have this really bad impression on them. So being able to speak freely is not only accepting the fact that there are differing opinions than your own, but it's to be respectful and to actually be more open to the fact that we should just be we should befriend people with differing views, so it overall opens our mind.
There's just such a hyper-partisan feeling going around everywhere, not just college campuses, especially in politics. So it's important for us to be able to speak freely and all that stuff. So on a nationwide level, what is your take on the free speech censorship issue going around college campuses in the United States?
I feel like the community overall, like in college campuses in the U.S., it's always categorizing people. We see all of these clubs and organizations and everything, and I really do appreciate them. It's just, in my opinion, if we're just constantly making all of these different sections for people, like there's a Democratic Party or Stockton University, there's a Republican Party, there's certain societies for the major that you're in, so you automatically label yourself as such. On a resume, for example, you have to put, for example, for me, criminal justice major, I do this, I do that, but that doesn't fully express who I am. That expresses what I do to to be involved in the university. So this free speech and this censorship issue, I think that you should just be free to kind of speak your mind, and if someone gets offended, you should, rather than going to this higher order automatically and saying this person's being hateful or this person's being racist, then you should actually talk to them and start a conversation. Don't be afraid to have a conversation with a topic that you may not feel 100% comfortable with, because maybe you may spark a different interest in that person, or you may actually let that person in on a new perspective, and it will open up both of your minds.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Bree. And there you have it. This may be a sticky subject, especially with our hyperpolarized world today, but there are ways to combat this issue, such as allowing children to have freedom to look at other perspectives and viewpoints and not just hate the other side. There is no us versus them, and parents should also start at a young age. Parents should start at a young age of not being so protective, because this will have adverse effects in the future, as we said before, especially in mature environments such as college.